Greetings everyone. We are back with another video, not in the normal studio. And there's been a bit of a wait for this video. Life gets in the way, but we're back. And what are we talking about? We're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about Microtech at first. And I'll probably even try to keep that on the screen. So we're talking Microtech. You know, there are knives that come out sometimes. Some of you can relate to this. That you know two things. The moment they're either announced or released, you know two things right off the bat. One, you will absolutely end up getting one at some point. And two, you're probably not going to like it, and that won't dissuade you from getting one anyway. Well, months ago, I don't know, maybe 8-10 months ago, roughly, Microtech announced that they were doing a Ram-lock version of the SOCOM Elite. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the SOCOM Elite, this is a top 5, maybe top 3 all-time modern knife design. I love these things. It's the road trip knife for me and many people, you know, because it has a glass breaker on the end. So I always like to at least imagine that I'm going someplace with water. So at least I'd be eligible to potentially need a glass breaker at some point. I mean, I don't want to be trapped under ice, but I guess if you're trapped under ice, you're also trapped underwater too. So glass breaker works in either scenario. But as much as we like to avoid it, it's still reason enough to carry this, and I carried other days. So anyway, back to the point. Microtech announced they were doing a Ram-lock version of the SOCOM. And both of those other factors applied that I mentioned before. I knew I would get one, and I probably wouldn't like it. But that doesn't mean I definitely wouldn't. So I bring to you, excuse me, the SOCOM Ram-lock edition. So here's how this came about. Sorry, when I lean forward, there's a shadow. We're not in our normal studio like I mentioned, so the production quality is taking a bit of a dip. So I get the daily emails from NC Blade, who's easily my favorite Microtech dealer. NC Blade is great, by the way. I've had nothing but amazing experiences with them. They even make the unboxing more of an event with a handwritten note and a corny joke inside an envelope with a hand-sealed wax seal on it. It's just a classy operation. So for all your Microtech needs, go to ncblade.com. This is obviously not a paid partnership somehow, despite my massive following. I don't know, maybe someday. But I managed to not get a SOCOM Ram-lock for a while. I was waiting for either one on the secondary or for Scotch and Things to buy one and not like it, and then I'd get a better deal on it, and then we'd both laugh about it when I didn't like it either. But that didn't happen, and I don't see many on the secondary. Scotch did happen to do that with the Ram-lock LUDT, but I like that knife. I don't love it, and you add the Ram-lock, I'm not interested. So one day I see the email from NC Blade, and I see this beauty. And I look at the description, and it's storm gray Cerakote, on the blade, excuse me, on the blade and the handle. And as some of you may know, gray is probably my favorite color, especially for tools and that kind of thing. I've never really cared about Cerakote. Seems a little silly to me in most instances, but this one just tickled my fancy. I figured there's enough collectors out there that, you know, I might be able to get close to my money back on this one if I didn't like it. So, what happened? This knife arrives in the mail, and immediately it's easy to open. Obviously, there's almost no detent because it's a Ram-lock, but it feels great in hand. And you've seen all the videos. I don't have to rehash all of that. So I liked it. My first impression was that I liked it a whole lot. So I did the only reasonable thing, and I carried pretty much nothing but this for the better part of 2 weeks. I've used it for food, boxes, cutting plastic out of things, prying this may be a felony, but prying the little water saver thing out of shower heads. They really try to make it so you can't get those out, but I'm batting 1,000 on that. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but I'm tempted to. So, used it for all sorts of stuff, and I frankly like it more the more I carry it. The pocket profile is great. The blade is just a fantastic length. I guess it's a 4-inch blade with 3.5-inch cutting surface. Good enough for me. That's one thing I love about the SOCOM Elite is this fantastic blade, which is more of an actual 4-inch cutting length. But I just like that generally. So this knife has grown on me, and I liked it immediately anyway. So I'm going to point out a few things on it that I've only watched 1 or 2 videos on this knife, and I don't know if they've been mentioned. But anyway, the Ram-lock, that's the elephant in the room. Is it a stupid lock design? No, it actually works really well. It's just normally a crossbar lock is not for me. I've had a few. The only one that's ever stuck around basically permanently is on the bug out, which is still to this day the all-time greatest ultralight modern knife ever made. You can fight me over it. There's not a better ultralight option than a bug out. I would say in my opinion, but it's more of a fact. Anyway, that's the only one that's really stuck around. So this somehow doesn't bother me as much. Sure, I don't like the action as much as if it was a frame lock or a liner lock, but they did a good job with it. There was a little bit of stick early, but within a day or two, that was gone. And frankly, this thing has been fantastic in pocket. The other thing to point out, speaking of pockets, is the clip. Now, for me, Microtech does about as good a pocket clip as you can do. If you see here, there's kind of 2 retention points on the clip. I think you can see that. Sorry, I'm using a makeshift tripod too, so I can't really see my video very well, but you didn't come here for the high production quality. So first one, what everybody's used to, where it goes in your pocket. The secondary one seems to just kind of push it or grab onto your pants a little bit more. Now, if you're wearing like, I don't know, ladies' trousers or something, maybe that's not useful. But if you're wearing jeans or some sort of work pants, fantastic. Easy in and out of pocket. The other thing that jumped out at me, and this was almost instant, was I'm playing with it and I noticed there's a little ticking sound, and it's because this glass breaker is cushioned. Like you can push on it and there's a slight bit of give. So I kind of racked my brain over why they would do that. And then I later looked it up and realized that the internet is full of morons. I saw one guy say, it's so it exerts extra pressure on the glass. When you go to break it, it expands the force. Nope. Basic physics, okay? Here's why I think they did it. You have the knife open, you're using it, and when you go to close it, there are times where it hits the base of your hand, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt when I do that at all. Yet some glass breakers, for example, the Microtech one, doesn't hurt either because it's rounded, but it is a little bit more abrupt at least in terms of impact. Or you take like a Hinderer glass breaker, which hopefully you're seeing there. This one's pointier, and if you poke your hand with it, yeah, that hurts a little bit. So I think it's ergonomics. Regardless, I'm thrilled about it. I'm glad they did it that way. The gray, I just like it. I really do. Is it borderline cheesy? Yeah, probably, but no more tacky than, half of Microtech's other offerings. Anyway, I like it. It's all gray. It's my favorite. This is a keeper. It's gonna be a keeper for a while. There were some days that it was my default knife, which there aren't many knives in my collection that tend to just be default carries. That probably deserves a video of its own, but so that's it. Yeah, you got the SOCOM Ram-lock, SOCOM Elite. The other one of these that will happen at some point is the Warcom. So it's a different blade shape. It's more of a sheep's foot blade There's a nice swedge in it, as I recall. I know it's inevitable that I get one of those. I've held off since they were announced at Blade Show, but I'm also aware that's only a few months ago. So at some point there will be a second SOCOM Elite in the collection. So that's the modern knife for this video. Let's move these to the side a little bit and talk about the only traditional knife I have on me or have with me. And it's this one. It's a case. Yeah, I know you guys are going to just be convinced that I only collect case knives. It seems like this comes up from time to time, but I may have even talked about this knife already. You know what? This whole model deserves its own video, and I've got a bunch of these. That's probably a better video of its on its own. So how about this? I talked about how much I like gray. Let's go with the pins I have on me. We'll talk about a couple pins. Big Idea design, USA made, and the tactile turn bolt action with the new clip. Let's talk USA made first. USA made, Big Idea design. So the genius of this pen is that it accepts all refills. Basically, you unscrew it. There's a Parker refill in here now, but basically you put or it's a Schmidt P8126, which is, I think, as I recall, slightly different than a Parker refill. But anyway, it's close. And there frankly aren't many pens that accommodate that refill at all. But through the brilliant design of Big Idea, they've figured out a way to make this twisty pen basically eat any sort of refill and accommodate it nicely. It is a small pen. It's not my ideal length, but it's fine in hand. And if you want to stick a pen in your front pocket, which is how I was carrying this, it's a great option. They make some Chinese bullshit versions too of that and their bolt action. I don't support any of that stuff, but when they announced this one being made in America, had to get one. The other ones, Tactile Turn's latest. Tactile Turn, I have a soft spot for these guys. They're in Dallas. I've been to the facility, went to their open house, and met a lot of the guys at various shows and that sort of thing, and always had really good experiences with them. Yes, their quality control on their knives is kind of terrible, or at least it was. Yes, these aren't as nice as some other pens that cost more, but at the price point of, I think this was maybe $125, something like that, for machined titanium with great little milling lines, giving a nice texture here. This one for sure is Parker sized. This is as good an option as you can get. I think the only other thing that could credibly compete, well, that's not true. There are a few great options, but this one's great. I really do like this one. And credit to Tactile Turn. This is probably the best clip I've ever had on a machine pen, just in terms of how it sits in the pocket. I mean, the function is typical Tactile Turns, great bolt action. So, two good pens. You can see my color preferences here on the Hank from Forrest himself. This was one of the Hank of the Month Hanks from Forrest. Hit up edcroundtable.com if you want to get you some Forrest Hanks. He's as good as it gets. So, all right, where does that leave us? The music section. Let's talk music, and probably a subject with a little bit of controversy. You hear Mount Rushmore of things, and all that means is it's somebody's top four of something, and especially people in my age bracket, we love to rank everything, and I'm no exception. So for most of my adult life, I have fixated to some degree on who my Mount Rushmore is for frontmen of rock bands. And what do I mean, frontman? Is that the lead singer? Yes, but it's not just the lead singer, it's a frontman. So do they have to be able to sing? Yes. Do they have to be great at it? Not really, but they need to be a good showman. And they just need to put on a show for the band, for the crowd. Think Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger can't sing for shit, but he's a superstar because of his energy and his abilities as a frontman. So that's my criteria anyway. And I have two spots on my Mount Rushmore that are inarguable. One, David Coverdale, Deep Purple, Whitesnake. He's the quintessential frontman. Good looking, good showman, great voice. He's a great guy to put out on stage. He's like the anti-Freddie Mercury. That may have hit home for some of you Queen fans, but I don't like Queen. Number 2 on my list, Sebastian Bach. Sebastian Bach was the perfect frontman, even if Skid Row wasn't around a long time. At their peak, Sebastian Bach was the frontman that everybody wanted to be. He was good looking, charismatic, easily the best voice of this Mount Rushmore as we get to the next two. But he embodied the band, and he's on my Mount Rushmore. Number 3. All right, we're back. There was a little bit of a technical snafu, so we're redoing the 3 and 4 part on the Mount Rushmore. So where were we? Coming up with number 3 really complicates things because there's so many viable options. And lest you think I'm an idiot, I think just about all of them. Whether it's Axl Rose, obviously Axl probably belongs on here. To be fair, there's probably an asterisk by numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 that Axl wasn't considered due to issues of fairness, how great Guns N' Roses was. So Axl's not on there. Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin's up there. David Coverdale just is a better version. That's probably up there with my take on the Bug Out, but I'll fight you over that one too. Robert Smith from The Cure, not exactly a front man. I thought of Vince Neil. He's the embodiment of it, but Motley Crue never put out an entire good record. They got close early on, but the longer they went, the weaker their albums got. So he's off my list. That's kind of just making up a criteria too, because number 4, they don't have many great albums either. So anyway, who else was considered? Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. Good argument for him. Corey Taylor from Slipknot. The Mask holds him back. Also, his continual douchebag behavior, and he's an unlikable guy. That takes him off the list. And I don't mean like he's a jerk. Like he's just, I'll move on. Rob Halford from Judas Priest. I struggled not putting him on here. And the other one I almost put on here that I really wanted to but didn't was Ozzy Osbourne. And that's only because as a solo act, he's by definition the front man. And, well, I love Black Sabbath. I love all the records that he's on for Black Sabbath, but nevertheless, he didn't make the cut. James Hetfield, Dave Mustaine. Mustaine's talented. Hetfield, I suppose, is talented, but he's not really a front man. Eddie Vedder was another. All right, so number 3. Who's number 3? Ronnie Van Zant, Lynyrd Skynyrd. It occurred to me that to be on this list, you have to be the kind of guy that cannot be replaced. Where if you take you out of the band, it's not even close to the same band anymore, and that's Ronnie Van Zant. He was a showman by not being a showman. He was a showman in that he captured everything about Skynyrd. They worked hard, they played hard, and they just recorded music for the people where they came from, which was Alabama and the South. And his tragic death in 1977 really derailed a band that would probably have still been making good albums into the 90s, if I had to guess. With Rossington and Collins on guitar, they really had something, and anyway, that his death from that plane crash and the death of the other folks in and associated with Lynyrd Skynyrd kind of derailed all that. But Ronnie Van Zant's on my Mount Rushmore. Number 4 is probably my most controversial, but one that I'm oddly pleased with. You cannot have this band without him. He embodies the band. He connects with the audience in a way very few do. look no further than Woodstock 99. And no, I'm not talking Fred Durst, though I probably should be. That's actually not a bad idea. But no, number 4 on my Mount Rushmore, Jonathan Davis, Korn. Has Korn put out an entire great album? You could argue they have a couple, particularly strong albums. They're more of a niche band, and frankly, pretty formulaic. I don't care. The guy's electric on stage. He's a front man, and he's one that I enjoyed a lot. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So Jonathan Davis, number 4 on the Mount Rushmore. Sorry, Steven Tyler. I can't believe he made it in over Robert Plant, but, Coverdale ruined that for him. So that's it. There's your musical update. I have a couple others in mind, but I need to at least fact check a couple things here and there before I go into other topics. So that's it for this video. I don't really have a Steve section, I guess, to kill time with. Do I? Not really. I've been kind of disconnected, so been busy, so haven't been totally keeping up with everything. And Steve needs to put out more videos. Get him in the comments. Let him know that his knives are dirty and they need maintenance, and that needs to be recorded. Now, this should have been enough time for you to like, share, subscribe, comment, reply to comments, and downvote people that don't like me. Obviously, there's none of those. That was for levity. So that's all we got for this video. Bye-bye.